Assassin's Creed is a game filled with many historical events in different eras. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood takes place in the Italian Renaissance, which roughly started during the 15th century and lasted until the 17th century. Italian Renaissance started when all great minds of Europe ended up in the Italian Renaissance, that is, present-day Italy. And that was because of the Ottoman Empire taking over the Italian Empire. This kickstarts to what we know as of the early Italian Renaissance. Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, in general, is a 2010 video game that focuses on Ezio Auditore da Firenze, a legendary assassin, as he strives to rebuild the Assassins Brotherhood in Rome by bringing down the tyrannical Templar family, the Borgia, and bringing the city into true wealth and wonders of the Renaissance. So, now I'm going to talk about the clothing of the people during the 15th century, during the Italian Renaissance, starting from the 15th century. During the 15th century, in the Italian Renaissance, the clothing for people differentiated according to their classes in the society. So basically, what that means is what you wear will represent what you are. For general people wore clothes made out of linen, silk, velvet, leather, or lace. And the clothing were all puffy and some were slashing. For rich people, it was wealthier. The more wealthier, the more accessories they had, the more higher status they would symbolize. However, the clothes were very stiff and overall were very uncomfortable to wear. But nonetheless, to show your status was more important than comfort. For men, the clothing had many layers of silk doublets and velvet hats and fur jackets like mantles. And for women, it was a bell-shaped wooden hoop to make the skirt look round. This was the basic clothing in the complete during the Renaissance era. There is nothing very in detail about the Renaissance era that talks about the complete clothing from 15th century to the end of 17th century. Now I'm going to be talking about weapons in both Assassin's Creed Brotherhood and in the Italian Renaissance. In Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, many weapons existed, and most of the weapons were made by the great figure of Renaissance time, Leonardo da Vinci. In the game, the main character, aka the assassin, Ezio, has a secret hidden weapon called the Hidden Blade. The Hidden Blade was frequently used by assassins to kill somebody, and the blade was usually hid under the bracelet. However, Leonardo da Vinci never invented weapons like these. Almost all the assassins had to use some sort of small poison daggers or darts to assassinate people during the Renaissance time period. Leonardo da Vinci actually he did create the Hidden Blade, but it's only in what we call in the future as blueprints. So there's no actual hard copy of the Hidden Blade. Some other weapons of the Renaissance time that are also covered in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood in general are arming swords, broadswords, long swords, daggers and knives, clubs and maces, war hammers, poled arms, and spears, and etc. However, these are only some of the Renaissance weapons only some of the Renaissance weapons. These weapons do not include firepower. Most weapons that included firepower were invented by Leonardo da Vinci. The unfortunate news is most of them were never finished by him, since Leonardo da Vinci was famous for never finishing any of his work. Now I'm going to be talking about technology. In both, Assassin's Creed technology is shown in military and weapons, but during the Italian Renaissance, it is much more than just technology and events, since it talks about people and their life and how the technology affected their life and bringing it to the modern future we live in at the moment. The technology of Assassin's Creed Brotherhood is based off of the Renaissance era. However, during the Renaissance era, some of the materials invented that changed the world were clocks, gunpowder, and artillery. However, the Chinese did this way before the Italians and the Europeans did. Eyeglasses and spectacles, printing press, again something that the Chinese already did. Flush toilet, microscope, telescope, submarine, matchsticks, and etc. and keeps on going. So there's a big list of things that were invented during the Renaissance time period. However, most of them are not covered in games since they have no relevance to the game, which is really understandable. Now I'm going to be talking about the people of the Italian Renaissance. When we think of people in general, we think of people on the street, people everywhere, like the general public, the general population. However, the definition of people changes from place to place and from people to people. For example, in Assassins Creed Brotherhood, when they talk about people, it's only the important people that affected the time period today and affected the future. Some of the important figures in the Italian Renaissance were, I'm going to get most of the names wrong, but excuse me for that. Giotto di Bondeno, Sandro Botticelli, Andrea Pisano, Jean Boulan, Agnolo Bronzino, Palma el Vecchio, Jan Bruegel the Elder, and etc. And the list is around 10 to 20 pages long, since the Italian Renaissance had many important figures. However, in Assassin's Creed, only a handful of these names were seen. For example, Leonardo da Vinci, Cesare Borgia, Niccolo Machiavelli, Caterina Sforza, Bartolomeo de Alvino, and Lucrezia. These are the only important people that are not fictional and do exist during the Italian time period that have been talked about in the game itself and have been included in the game within the story. Now I'm going to be talking about the events that happened during the Italian Renaissance. There's nothing much important and relevant to what we learned during this course of history, but there is somewhat of history in there. For example, in 1200 CE, quite a bit before during the Italian Renaissance, the growth of lay education and intellectual renaissance begins, and students start entering school with no intention of becoming priests, and education is offered in European languages other than Latin, which is in Italian time period is a pretty big deal. Then if you skip ahead like 300 years after the beginning of Middle Ages, where the Black Plague has already started, we see for example in 1504, Raphael painted the marriage of the Virgin. It is exemplified of the major principles of high Renaissance art. So already in the beginning of the Italian Renaissance, we see a lot of work already happening, which gives us a foreshadowing of what can happen towards the end. And since we already know what happens, and for example, and moving forward, 1527 CE, German troops began sacking Rome and bringing about the end of the Renaissance. For some reason, the German troops from Germany have started attacking Italy. We have never talked about this, nor the game talks about it. So I'm not gonna cover it since it's not in the course nor in the game. And if we come towards the end of the Italian Renaissance, 1580. Palladio, the Italian Renaissance architect, died, and he designed a lot of stuff just before his death, and it was completed by another great artist. So during the Italian Renaissance, we see the birth of many inventions, art and literature, especially art and literature take a higher boost during the Italian Renaissance. However, in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, none of this is covered. The Assassin's Creed Brotherhood does not talk about any of the important events that happened during the Italian Renaissance. Since it's a game, it has its own story and follows its own plots and events. it was not expected of it to follow follow the events that happened in the Italian Renaissance, which is understandable. Now I'm going to be talking about the daily life of people during the Italian Renaissance. Well, before I start, I must tell that there is basically nothing to talk about, and all that basically happened was children used to go to school. As I said before, school was encouraged for children. They used to go to school without any purpose. They just wanted to learn. That was their main motive and their main goal. Adults used to work. Poor people used to work on farms, do their poor labor job, and etc. A merchant had to sell stuff and keep his shop open. Blacksmith had to keep his hammer running so that he could produce weapons and armor for the general public and or the palace. So in daily life in Italian Renaissance, it was, other than the events, it was basically normal people living their ordinary and normal life like nothing was going around. They did not even have a hint that the Italian Renaissance was going on and what we think of Italian Renaissance as of today. It was just a normal time period for them. However, in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, well, should not say however, they're pretty similar. Since it's a game, most of the characters, every second or third character looks pretty similar, and most of them have similar actions, and all they do is stand on the road and talk and point at stuff. Nothing important has been told about them, about the daily life of people. Thieves used to steal money from people. Guards used to patrol the city. People used to discuss about the daily lives of events and that all stuff. Nothing special was talked about in Assassin's Creed. So in conclusion, in my opinion, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood is a really good game and a really fun game, and it teaches a lot about the Italian Renaissance. I would say it taught me about 60% of what I know the Italian Renaissance was, and when I compare, I see, the game is pretty accurate. However, you have to do your own research to know what exactly happened if you're more interested. So Assassin's Creed Brotherhood to me is a really good game, and it should be used to teach children of how the Italian Renaissance occurred, and since it's really interactive and it's really fun, children would take more interest in it, and I highly recommend using this game as a way to teach Italian Renaissance, teach what happened during the Italian Renaissance to children, and especially gamers would absolutely love it. And yeah, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood is as I said, it's about 60 to 65% relevant of what happened in the Italian Renaissance. Since it's a game, it has its own story and its own plot, so it has to follow that. It just cannot be it just cannot just rip off of Italian Renaissance and do whatever the Italian Renaissance had occurred. Then it would not be called Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. It would probably be called the Renaissance era or something. So yeah, that's understandable, and that's a fact of the game, that it's a game, it has to follow its own story, and I appreciate that. And the game's pretty good, and again, I highly recommend using this game to teach history to the children. Since once you see this, you know 60% of what happened, 60 to 65% of what happened during the Italian Renaissance, and then an interest within you grows that wants to know more of what happened in the Italian Renaissance. So the rest 40 to 35% is taken on by yourself. You don't have to push yourself. Trust me, the interest comes in by yourself. So thank you for watching the video. I hope it was helpful, and I hope I fulfilled the purpose of the video.